2022. As a reminder, as always, this is a public meeting and is being recorded. For those of you calling in, please ensure that you have muted your phone line by pressing *6. Thank you. And we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner O'Grady.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this week we have another guest for Black History Month whose work is known nationally. Greg Jacobs is an award-winning documentarian whose thought-provoking films have appeared on the History, Discovery, and National Geographic channels, to name a few. He will talk today about a book published 11 years ago which looked at racial inequities in the Columbus area titled Getting Around Brown, Desegregation, Development in Columbus Public Schools. This book is highly regarded, as one reviewer said, is a must-read for every teacher and public officials. Welcome, Mr. Jacobs. I am interested to hear what your research has shown. You are on mute, I think, or we can't hear you. Hold on one second. Oh, okay, great. All right, thank you. And thank you so much for your patience, to you and everyone else that's on the call. So I will hand it over to you, Mr. Jacobs.
So thank you so much. It's really an honor to be invited to speak before the Board of Commissioners this morning. I want to start off by thanking Commissioners Crowley, Boyce, and O'Grady for the opportunity. That was definitely the longest and most dramatic introduction I've ever gotten. So I actually became interested in the subject of Columbus school desegregation more than 30 years ago. I was reading the textbook for a college class on constitutional law when I came across Pennock v. Columbus Board of Education, the Columbus school desegregation case, which was decided in 1977 and appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court 2 years later. Now, I get excited any time I come across anything about Columbus, but this was different. I thought, wait a minute, this history happened to me. I was a fifth grader in 1979, the year the desegregation order went into effect, and I was bused from Berwick to Old Orchard Elementary. I hadn't thought about it in years, but I was immediately struck by a vivid memory from that fall. It was a gray October morning, and we were all suddenly told to put on our coats and go wait outside on the playground. I have no idea how long we were out there, but as a 10-year-old, no classes, free playground time, it was pretty great. Well, as it turned out, the reason we were outside is that the FBI had just arrested two white nationalist brothers who had been plotting for months to blow up the school. Their primary target, my classmate Tracy, who happened to be the daughter of the judge who had issued the school desegregation order, Robert Duncan. I bring this up for two reasons. First, as a reminder that racial hate has never not been with us, and that a mindset that considers murdering a 10-year-old acceptable political protest must never be allowed to flourish. Less obviously, however, it seemed appropriate to take this Black History Month opportunity to honor Judge Duncan himself, an extraordinary man who is pretty much the first Black everything when it comes to legal and judicial positions in Ohio. Judge Duncan was crucial to what eventually became the distinguishing feature of school desegregation in Columbus. The fact that unlike in so many northern cities throughout the 70s, nothing happened. The first week proceeded peacefully without incident, turning Columbus into an unexpected model for the nation. Judge Duncan's thoughtfulness, his thoroughness, even his biography. He was a Black Republican, a Nixon appointee. His kids went to CPS schools. His wife was a CPS school teacher. All of it combined to make his very presence a calming factor during one of the most volatile moments in the city's history. Yet he had also experienced the painful reality of the color line. So when he issued his school desegregation order in March 1977, he did so without any hesitation or uncertainty. To find that CPS had created and maintained an unconstitutionally segregated school system was, in his words, not a close call. And that brings me to what I think is the reason the history of Columbus school desegregation remains so relevant even today. The fact that the racial geography of Franklin County and all of the inequities that come with it, education, health, transportation, job opportunities, and so on, didn't just happen. It was a result of generation after generation of public policies and private institutions designed at every turn to keep Black families from living in the white families and Black kids from attending school with white children. Now, the history that Judge Duncan laid out in his ruling was definitely not unique to Columbus. The same segregative tools were used in cities all over the country. To name just a few, laws and policies dating back a century and a half that barred blacks from public schools or mandated segregation, restrictive covenants, redlining, race-based assignment policies for students, teachers, and administrators, building new schools and changing attendance zones to maintain segregation. The list goes on and on. But in the end, what set Columbus apart was the use of tools that this audience knows better than just about anybody: municipal annexation and water sewer policy. Basically, up until the early 1960s, the boundaries of the city of Columbus and the boundaries of the Columbus public schools were essentially the same. The city used its water sewer monopoly to ensure that any township or development looking for those services had to be annexed within the city. And what it was automatically incorporated into the city school district. As a result, Columbus was able to keep growing geographically and not have that growth choked off by surrounding ring of suburbs like so many other cities. But starting just after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, that all began to change. Land that came into the city was suddenly allowed to remain in suburban school districts. By the start of desegregation in 1979, the city was 180 square miles, but the school district was just 109. That meant that 40% of the city, 71 square miles, was served by suburban schools. Why was this land, called the common area, so important? Because it created a safety valve for civic leaders who were convinced that school desegregation would kill the growth of the city. The school desegregation suit was first filed in 1973. Within 2 years, residential real estate development had essentially stopped in areas served by the Columbus schools. Meanwhile, development in the common areas continued to thrive and remained overwhelmingly white. Realtors began putting up signs advertising that their homes were in suburban school districts. One even put up billboards with cannibals cooking missionaries and the caption, "Feeling crowded?" Between 1970 and 1990, the number of people living in the common areas grew from almost no one to nearly 25% of the city's population. And while the population of the city itself grew 15% during those years, the population in areas served by the city schools actually dropped by more than 10%. It wasn't that middle-class families were fleeing the city. It's that middle-class families who moved to the city were settling in the common area. After all, they didn't have much choice. Almost no new homes were being built inside the school district. As far as I can tell, the phenomenon of the common areas is unique to Columbus. What it meant was that the city was able to continue to expand and thrive economically, even as the school district gradually became blacker and poorer. Again, none of this was coincidental. It was created by a set of choices and sustained by a set of assumptions, all of which ensured that resources and opportunities would inevitably flow away from predominantly black communities. So as you think about these issues in this month and beyond, I urge you to keep this history in mind and know that any push for equity has to start with confronting the link that has so long existed between race, place, and poverty. It won't be easy, and I don't envy the work ahead of you, but just as old choices and assumptions created these challenges, new choices and assumptions can overcome them. I look forward to seeing what happens in the months and years to come, and I thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jacobs, for that overview and that history lesson about how redlining, segregation, desegregation has impacted Columbus and Columbus history, and we still see those effects today. But I will let my colleagues comment before I give my comments.
Okay, I'll start. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mr. Jacobs, for that synopsis of a very serious history implications for where we are today. I just want to add some things to it. And I really like how you framed our own growth. You know, when you think of Columbus as it is today, and for those of us who grew up here, we know that, as they say, this is not your father's Columbus. This city is nowhere near the comparison of what kind of city it was when I grew up. And by the way, in 1979, I was 8. And so I do remember the change of environment in many ways that segregation was. I mean, we grew up as a desegregated generation. And I can tell you stories and stories about how I think that wasn't the right approach to things. But let me just point out a couple of things. You know, this BOC has really focused on racism as a public health crisis, but embedded in that is the idea that we have to address poverty and racism and attack it in a way that helps the public understand that we understand the implications that are embedded in our policies. So I want to add just a couple of quick points. Because these same policy implications are policy implications that also have created a disparate wealth gap in America that continues to perpetuate policies that continue to keep a certain group of people down. And let me give you the example. You mentioned FHA and restrictive covenants, the creation of FHA and the restrictive covenants that were embedded. What we know today as the 30-year mortgage was created under these policies. This didn't exist until the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, created it. But in doing that, they also created restrictions that were allowed to create these communities, what we know today as suburbs. Let me just share one little fact with you. The average wealth of white families in America is about $170,000 median asset value. The average wealth of black families in America is about $17,000. The vast majority of that wealth is rooted in home ownership. Mm-hmm. And so you got to think about how when we make public policy decisions that have implications far beyond what we think they're accomplishing at that moment. And that's what I love about the work of our Rise Together plan and strategy is we are really being thoughtful about the policies that we enact today that have implications that go far deeper than the generation that we are managing right now. And that's when we start to make better public policy decisions that get at these issues of racism and poor policy choices that have dogged our country for so long. It's without question we've grown as a country since our beginning of time. It's without question that we get better and better. But the challenges remain from the decisions that we made 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 years ago. And it is our responsibility, it is our job, not just as a Board of Commission, not as just as a General Assembly, not as Congress, but as residents, citizens, people of this great country, our city, our county, whatever, to be a part of unwinding those policies and some of those challenges that have dogged us and that we don't want to inhibit the next generation. And so I'm really grateful for that rendition. But that to say, we still have a long way to go to unwind those policies. The final point I'll make is Judge Duncan was a really good friend. My ex-wife was a relative of Judge Duncan, so I got to know Judge Duncan, his son Vincent, and the family members in that way. And I will say, what I learned from Judge Duncan and that the decisions that he made as a judge is you got to have courage. In an environment that otherwise pushes you to do what may be popular or what the masses are responding to, it requires courage. And I want to just recognize my colleague, John O'Grady, and I want to diminish Madam President Crawley, but this is before she got here. She has a great history, by the way, of civil rights advocacy as a legislator. But when we made the deliberate decision to take on racism and poverty as an issue, it really was not a common thing in America. But I will tell you, it wasn't just me as the African American, the one at the time, the lone African American. I can tell you that the real difference was folks like Marilyn Brown and John O'Grady buying into and understanding what that means for the broader community and willing to have the courage to stand for that change and not only do that, but to take action. And that's where real change occurs. And that's what Black History Month is really about, is recognizing some of our past failures and mistakes, but more importantly, moreover, making the choices today that address those implications in the future. So this was a great rendition. I want to thank you for the sharing that. And I thought you were going to go a little more into the win-win agreement and how that is somewhat of a result of kind of what you were laying out there. And it's unique to Central Ohio. Win-win is unique to Central Ohio, that you can live in the city of Columbus and attend a suburban school district. And then there are tax issues that are built around that are unique. And that's a Central Ohio thing. So But that'll be another lesson one day for history. So thanks, Madam President, for indulging me with that floor opportunity.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyce, for your kind words. Mr. Jacobs, thank you for being here this morning. Thanks for your information. Thanks for your presentation. Commissioner Boyce and I often remind everybody, we both grew up here and remember the Central Ohio of a long time ago, longer for me than for Commissioner Boyce. I do remember.
Much longer.
I do remember those times. I do remember the late 70s, and I do remember all of this happening. I also, like Commissioner Boyce, had the pleasure of knowing Judge Duncan actually very well in the last 15, 18 years of his life. Spent quite a bit of time with him. He belonged to the same organization that I did and had lunch with him every other Friday for the last 15 or 18 years of his life. He and I and a group of folks belonged to a group called the Political Debate Society, and he was one of the Republicans in the group, and I was one of the Democrats. He was a longtime friend of my father's. And so we would get together for lunch every other Friday, and we heard these stories on a fairly regular occasion. We would talk about this, and he would let us in on a lot of the things that were going on at the time, the things that helped inform him of the decisions that he had to make, and the things that were happening back in the 70s when these decisions had to be made. He was such a wonderful man, though, and had such a great approach to how he thought about politics, how he was raised in the Urbana area in Champaign County, and in a Republican family, in a Republican atmosphere, and how it informed his decision making and informed who he was and who he became. And just a wonderful, wonderful man, and missed to this day. Very, very brilliant legal mind, and just a great guy who we will miss. We continue to miss. So thanks for your insight this morning.
And I just want to echo what Commissioner Boyce said about, when we look at policies and the impacts of them over generations. Unfortunately, I didn't get to know or didn't know Judge, the great judge, and I'm not originally from here. I'm originally from Northeast Ohio, but being a lawmaker and then at the state and then coming down to the county, I get to see the impacts of policies that have been in place or in place generations ago, and then the ongoing efforts that we as elected officials have to make in trying to mitigate the negative outcomes from those policies. For instance, not even just when we talk about redlining, we can talk about the health outcomes that we are still dealing with today due to redlining. And there's people that I've had conversations with recently who feel like redlining wasn't really a thing. And the fact that we even have that conversation now, like, Black people and Jewish people and Italians, they all just want to live in neighborhoods and be with each other. Well, they really had no choice because of the policies that were in place. And so then you have those that lived in specific areas, and then we had highways built through the middle of their communities on purpose. And so, having a policy like racism as a public health crisis is a way to really look at how those policies impacted communities and coming up with ways to really address those things head on and mitigate them. And I, along with my former colleague, Representative, now Councilwoman Stephanie House, has racism as a public health crisis at the state. And we talked specifically about redlining. We talked specifically about segregation and school funding and desegregation, because when it comes to wealth building, as Commissioner Boyce said, it's hard for individuals to, one, be able to build wealth if they can't afford to purchase a home, or if they don't have the education, or if they've not been put in a position to be able to take advantage of opportunities, or maybe been put in a position but then had barriers put in front of them that made it harder. The other thing that I think we haven't really talked about in a long time, and I think gets overlooked, is before desegregation, there were more Black teachers educating our youth. And then when desegregation happened, obviously you had, as you mentioned, individuals who felt like, I don't want Black teachers or minority teachers teaching my children, or, we don't want Black and brown children in our schools. And that really impacted those in the teaching profession. And we see that today, even in the state of Ohio, we have less than 4% Black male teachers, which hasn't always been the case. And so, I appreciate the history that you gave us today, and it just lets us know, as Commissioner Boyce said, we still have a long way to go, but we have grown, we have evolved. Columbus is a really great place to live, but not for everyone. And so I think that's what we continue to put at the forefront here at the Board of Commissioners, is that we want to make sure that every resident every day has the experience of being able to live, work, and play in an inclusive community, and one where they have the same opportunities as everyone else to thrive and not just survive. So thank you again. I don't know if anyone has anything else that they want to say, but you are welcome to stay for general session meeting. Well, we know you have a busy life too, and we had technical difficulties, so everything might be pushed back. So again, we thank you for your time today, and you are welcome to stay if you'd like. Thank you. Okay, if I can get approval of the minutes of the January 25th and the February 1st, 2020 general sessions, the January 27th and the February 3rd, 2020 briefing sessions, and the January 26th, 2020 administrative briefing.
I will move approval of the minutes.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Thank you. The minutes have been approved.
Thank you. First up, we have quarter comment, please.
Resolution number 9022. Resolution authorizing an addendum to the existing contract with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction for the Community Corrections Prison Diversion 407 program of the Common Pleas Court. An addendum increase of $58,848 for a new total grant of $4,539,256.
Kimberly Canada, Director of Finance for the Common Pleas Court, and with me is Walt Chesterfield, Chief Probation Officer. This contract addendum provides the Adult Probation Department's Community Correction Prison Diversion Program some additional funding to be used on grant expenditures during state fiscal year 2022 and 2023. Pending any questions, we request your approval.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 9022.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 9022 has been adopted.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Next, we have the coroner.
Resolution number 9122. Resolution authorizing an agreement with AMN Healthcare, a healthcare recruiting firm, for physician recruitment services for the Franklin County Forensic Science Center, Office of the Coroner, in the amount of $66,000.
My name is Amanda Wright. I am with the Coroner's Office representing Dr. Annie Ortiz. This resolution is to authorize an agreement with AMN Healthcare for recruiting services for 2 forensic pathologists that shall not exceed the $66,000. And this agreement is for 1 year. Pending any questions, we ask for your approval of this resolution.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 9122.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 9122 has been adopted. Resolution number 9222. Resolution authorizing a modification of the current contract with Store Mortuary Transport LLC for body transport services in the amount of $500,000.
Commissioners, our second resolution is for the authorizing of a modification with the current contract with Thor Mortuary Transport. The remainder, for the remainder of the contract, which ends August 31st of 2022. The body transport will be between Franklin County Forensic Science Center and Hamilton County Coroner's Office, as we have engaged in services with Hamilton County to perform autopsy services due to our current staffing shortage. And this will also provide expedited services for the residents of Franklin County. This agreement with Hamilton County has resulted in unanticipated increase due to the transport services deemed that will be charged with the compensation for those services. Pending any questions, we ask for your approval of this resolution.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 9222.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 9222 has been adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have the engineer.
Resolution number 9322. Resolution authorizing the Franklin County engineer to enter into a contract modification with Osborne Engineering Incorporated for the Trebu Road Corridor Improvement Project, Norwich Township, Franklin Township, Perry Township, and the City of Columbus, an increase of $600,166 for a revised contract amount of $898,097.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hear a little bit of an echo. I'll proceed. My name is Cornell Robertson, County Engineer for everyone in Franklin County. Commissioners, this capital improvement project is in the northwest part of the county along Trebu Road from Lakeshore Drive to Riverside Drive in parts of Norwich Township, Franklin Township, and Perry Township. This is a cooperative project among Franklin County, City of Columbus, Upper Arlington, and a private developer. The Franklin County Engineer's Office received an $8.7 million grant. That's correct, $8.7 million through MORPC attributable funding to expand the footprint of the project to include rehabilitation of the Trebu Road Bridge over Cider Point, as well as the addition of pedestrian and biking facilities. This resolution is a design contract modification with Osborne Engineering in the amount of $600,166 to incorporate design of the expanded project. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
There are no comments or questions. I'll move approval of Resolution 9322.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 9322 has been adopted. Resolution number 9422. Establishing, altering, and widening of Rings Road, County Road number 33, from Cosgray Road, County Road number 39, to Churchman Road, Washington Township, City of Dublin, Franklin County, Ohio, declared necessary.
Commissioners, as stated, this capital improvement project is in the northwest part of the county in Washington Township along Rings Road from Cosgray Road to Churchman Road. This is a cooperative project among Franklin County, Washington Township, City of Dublin, and CSX Railroad to improve Rings Road with full-depth pavement replacement, resurfacing, curb and gutters, pedestrian facilities, street lighting, street trees, and an upgraded railroad crossing. This resolution is the first in a series of two to declare the project necessary. Pending any questions, I request your approval of this resolution.
There are no comments or questions. I'll move approval of Resolution 9422.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 9422 has been adopted. Resolution number 9522. Establishing, altering, and widening of Havens Corners Road, County Road number 16, at the intersections of Taylor Station Road, County Road number 208, and Man Road, Township Road number 107, Jefferson Township, Franklin County, Ohio, declared necessary.
This capital improvement project is in the northeast part of the county in Jefferson Township along Havens Corners Road from Taylor Station Road to Man Road. This is also a cooperative project among Franklin County, Jefferson Township, City of Gahanna, a private developer, and the Franklin County Transportation Improvement District to improve an offset signalized T intersection and a stop control T intersection with a roundabout. This resolution is the first in a series of two to declare the project necessary. I respectfully request your approval of this resolution.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 9522.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 9522 has been adopted. Resolution number 9622. Resolution reappointing Transportation Improvement District, TID Board of Trustees members, Franklin County, Ohio.
As you know, the Franklin County Transportation Improvement District, also known as the TID, was created by the Board of County Commissioners in March of 2019. As we expected, the TID has proven to be an effective tool of collaboration for transportation infrastructure improvements in Franklin County and has been even more powerful than we originally anticipated. In just 3 years, the CID has brought additional funding to Franklin County for coordinated infrastructure improvements that otherwise would not have been available. $518,000 of funding from ODOT Jobs and Commerce, $498,000 from other local agencies, and $5.4 million committed by private developers. The TID has also been utilized to facilitate the removal of the outdated pedestrian bridge over High Street at the courthouse and the construction of a new parking lot at 50 East Mount Street, providing 89 additional parking spaces for the courthouse. The appointments for 4 of the 5 members of the TID have expired. All 4 members are board members in good standing and desire to be reappointed. The 4 appointments are as follows: Eric Janis, Deputy County Administrator; Zach Woodruff, City Administrator, City of Whitehall; Curtis Williams, President and CEO of COCIC; and myself, Cornell Robertson, Franklin County Engineer. With this resolution, I'm asking you to reappoint these 4 board members for the term effective through March 8, 2023. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
There are no comments or questions. I'll move approval of Resolution 9622.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 9622 has been adopted.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Next, we have the Sheriff's Office.
Resolution number 9722. Resolution authorizing a service contract for a 5-year software as a service agreement with WatchGuard Video Incorporated for body-worn cameras and related storage solutions in the amount of $2,523,802.17.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kenneth Wilson, County Administrator. I'm pleased to be before you this morning to provide an introduction to a resolution that would authorize a service contract for a 5-year agreement with a 5-year renewal option with WatchGuard Video for body-worn cameras and related storage solutions for the Sheriff's Office. This has been quite a journey. This Board of Commissioners approved funding in December of 2020 to carry out this initiative. And I recall Commissioner O'Grady asking me to reach out to Sheriff Dallas Baldwin to convene a group to get the job done. And spoke with the sheriff at that time, and we had our first bi-weekly body-worn camera meeting on Friday, January 15th, according to my records. And it's been a number of meetings we made it as a standing meeting. And the committee included the county administration, the sheriff's office, the prosecuting attorney's office, the Office of Management and Budget, the data center, fleet management, and our purchasing department. to get us to this date. I commend everybody here in the county that came together, and we got some difficult work done. As you all know, it's easy to talk about purchasing this equipment, but you have to do it right. You have to learn from the examples from around the county and to do it the Franklin County way and focus it on accountability and transparency, the standard that has been set by this board. I think that we have a policy that has been developed that is in fact grounded in transparency as a goal and aimed at increasing the safety of our deputies and every resident every day that we serve during any transactions and interactions that they may have in our community. So I will say that I think that we have more work to be done. We have an implementation schedule that we will continue to work all the way through procurement, system validation and testing to get to the day of full implementation for our patrol division. So now we have our sheriff here, Sheriff Dallas Baldwin. I don't know if he would like to speak, and after that I would like to go over the policy itself. I hope the Sheriff's Director of Administration, Dave Masterson, is on the line. Our Procurement Director, Megan Perry-Bellanier, is here. We have Prosecuting Attorney's Office here, Janine Hummer, as well as Abden Frumpkin, our CIO, and I would like to walk through the various components to provide an overview after Sheriff Baldwin speaks. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, President Crawley, Commissioner Grady, Commissioner Boyce, and County Administrator Ken Wilson. I just want to take a moment and thank all of you for the hard work and the dedication to get this moving forward. As the County Administrator said, this was not an easy task. There's a lot of interest at play, and a lot of different units came together to work on this. But it's very vital. We all recognize the importance of having these body cameras for transparency for the Sheriff's Office, to make sure that the community has faith in the deputies and what takes place, and also the benefits of training for oversight. It's a huge project, but very, very necessary, and it's a great tool for law enforcement, and I wish we had been here before, but we couldn't for a number of factors. It's very costly, but we're there, and we're not going to let up. We're going to make sure that these cameras are here, that the training takes place, and they're on the street as soon as possible. And again, I would just like to thank everybody for your hard work, from the prosecutor's office, from everybody. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I would like to provide an overview of the policy. Would like to lead off with Dave Masterson, the Director of Administration, if he's on the Zoom virtually. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dave Masterson, Director of Administrative Services for the Sheriff. We have a policy that was released late last week to the staff. Its effective date is July 1st, 2022. It has definitions in terms of when the events will be tagged as evidence, non-evidence, permanent or civil unrest. There's a definition of a significant event, which means an incident involving a deputy that would likely be subject to heightened media attention or public interest. However, nothing in this definition limits the ability of the sheriff or county commissioner, the county administrator, or the prosecuting attorney from designating an event as a significant event. There is different parameters within the policy on when the cameras are to be used. There are a few exceptions for when they are to be turned off, such as undercover operations. There's a section regarding equipment maintenance. Like I said, the operation, where to wear it. There is definition and discussion on what power on of the body-worn camera is. There is a recording activation. Those will be whenever it is ordered by a supervisor, responding to or engaging in law enforcement activity at the start of the response or engagement, or at the first reasonable opportunity. Law enforcement activity includes calls for service when arriving on scene, and when citizen contact is made, responding to alarms, alerts, security threats, medical emergencies, altercation with disputes, traffic and pedestrian stops, investigatory stops, arrest, transfers of custody and arrestee or inmate transports, vehicle and foot pursuits, searches, and any other interaction that may constitute a law enforcement activity. The committee felt that this covered pretty much everything that would be necessary for the use of the body-worn cameras. There is public records information in there on the way that will work. And finally, the resolution has a statement that the policy will be reviewed on an annual basis with the prosecutor, the sheriff, and the Board of County Commissioners as necessary. So that's kind of the synopsis of the policy. The policy is attached to the resolution for public consumption, and that's all I have on the policy. If there's anything else that the sheriff or Administrator Wilson would like me to speak on, I'll be happy to, but otherwise I'll turn it over to anybody else on the team that wants to add any information.
Kenneth Wilson, County Administrator. I'd like to next offer the opportunity for the Prosecutor's Office to add any comments regarding the policy itself and key components of that policy and some of the effects of the policy.
Thank you, County Administrator and members of the Board of Commissioners. I first want to thank the Sheriff's Office in leading the charge to collaborate with other entities. And we all know that this is a separate elected office, and the sheriff chose to be part of a collaboration, and we commend him for it. More importantly is that because of that collaboration, what you will find in this policy is a focus on the transparency of events, to make sure that we thought through different scenarios and put those scenarios to paper. And the policy addresses those. We make clear in the policy of when that camera should be on, the look-back period related to that camera, and so that the public would understand while viewing this policy or reading the policy of what to expect. That is one of the reasons the policy is attached to this procurement. Unprecedented that you will see a Sheriff's Office policy attached to a procurement process that shows to the public, to the residents of Franklin County, our commitment to share with you. This is how these body cameras will be used. Read it, absorb it, because it's out there, and we are not hiding from the effects of the body cameras and what is being viewed. Finally, what we focused in on the policy is the public record aspect. Because the state legislature has set forth when body cameras footage will be a public record, that work has been done, but that is just a small part of it. The public will seek public records at various times for this body cam footage, and we have set forth a process in this policy of how that public record process will occur with the Sheriff's Office, the County Administration, and the Prosecutor's Office. We are a leader. I want to share that as we were going through this process, all of us looked at various policies. They're all across the country. All of them have been analyzed. Instead of just doing what everyone else had been doing, we took a step above that. And I commend, again, the Sheriff's Office and the leadership of Sheriff Baldwin for moving us forward in that direction. Any questions?
We'll wait until after everyone presents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like Data Center CIO Adam Frumpkin to highlight some of the technology components of the body-worn camera system and supported IT infrastructure.
So the way the contract is put together right now, we're moving forward, understanding that WatchGuard offers a cloud-based environment, and we moved in that direction based on the fact that we wanted the best technology that they had available, but we also put in our contract the aspirations for us to move that to a owned environment or hybrid environment within the county, and asked them to move that technology, which they said was on their roadmap, in that direction, which in the first 12 months of the contract will give us the ability to make that decision and what that best decision technology-wise is for the county and the Sheriff's Department as we move forward. The technology itself, we feel, is very grounded, very solid, and is utilized all over the country. And this company is a solid company that provides more than this technology for more than 1/3 of the police officers and jurisdictions across the country. So we think that moving in this direction and it matching up with what is already in our vehicles is a good, solid direction, and we've stood behind it and been partners and stood right next to and worked with the Sheriff's Department in this technology process.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I stated, there were countless hours spent working on this policy, building the implementation plan. I believe I was told that 50 hours the team spent negotiating the details of this contract. This process began with a formal request for information that was posted back in March of last year. So next I would like to briefly have our purchasing director, Megan Perry-Bellanier, sort of recap that process.
Thank you, Administrator Wilson. Good morning, Commissioners. As Administrator Wilson indicated, back in March of 2021, the county sought to gain information from a market perspective as to what solutions were available to the county, what type of functionality was being offered by various suppliers. So we did post the RFI. We advertised it in the Daily Reporter, as well as with Ohio MDE. We sent out individual notifications to nearly 80 vendors who we thought would be able to respond. And we did receive 9 responses from vendors who indicated, who answered questions that the county was seeking clarification on related to their business, related to local jurisdictions that they were currently supporting, the functionality of their solution in terms of the audio and video clarity, in terms of storage management, battery life, and things of that nature. One of the questions we also asked was whether or not their products were offered under a cooperative contract. Ultimately, once the committee reviewed all of the responses, it was determined that Motorola WatchGuard really met the needs of the county with the products that they had to offer. In saying that, they did also indicate that they had their offerings available under a cooperative contract through Sourcewell. And the county is able to participate in a joint purchasing program, which is authorized under the Ohio Revised Code Section 9.28. So utilizing that cooperative contract and having the county being a member of Sourcewell, we were able to use that as the basis of our procurement of these items. We feel like we really went through a process of due diligence to determine what the needs were, what products would meet those needs, and ultimately it resulted in this contract. Happy to answer your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Now I would just say in recap that, the goal, this has been a long process, but we believe that we brought forward the body-worn camera system that will improve evidence collection, strengthen the deputies' performance in the field, and use the video to improve employee training and document encounters between law enforcement and the public, and to investigate criminal activity and resolve complaints and other deputy-involved incidents. And again, putting, as been stated here, putting a premium on transparency to the public. And lastly, I would note that the resolution affirms the commitment of the Sheriff's Office and the Board of Commissioners to hold public forums to allow the residents the opportunity to learn about the cameras, and also be able to have a method to submit questions at the appropriate time. Our public affairs, respective public affairs staffs of the Sheriff's Office and the Board of Commissioners will be working along with our IT staff to set up a virtual forum to kick off that process as well. So pending any questions, the team would respectively ask for your passage of this resolution, and the entire team is available for questions. I certainly can't answer all the detailed questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Wilson. I'll open it up to my colleagues for questions and comments.
I'll start off. Thank you, Madam President. Let me first begin by commending Sheriff Baldwin for taking on this task. I think from day one, as we started the conversation, he was enthusiastic and engaging in the conversation, but also thoughtful, and wanted to work to implement not just a good product, but a good policy. And I just want to commend Sheriff Baldwin for taking that so seriously and really grinding into the details. And I appreciate working with you. You're a real professional, and I think that's the most important part when you have these conversations. I also want to just recognize and thank the prosecutor's office for being fully engaged at every level of this conversation. I just love the way internally there is an engagement with the administration, with the different agencies. Look, we don't always agree, and I'm saying this to the public. There is a lot of pulling and pushing that goes on that you don't often see. You're seeing the final product that's being passed today, but I can assure you that it was a grind. I can assure you that there were days that we were stuck on details and stuck on different aspects of how to implement the policy and manage it. But I just want to recognize at the end of the day, it's different when all the parties want to figure it out. And that's the part, in doing that in the name of what's in the best interest of Franklin County and the public. And so I want to just recognize the prosecutor's office and Prosecutor Tyak and his team, Janine Hummer and many, many others who very much work with us. And then finally, this administration, as commissioners, we really rely on the administration to carry out our values, our policies, and our requests. And it's complicated. It's complicated and it's big. And so I want to just recognize the administration for being the quarterback of a very complex and difficult process. Now, all the, accolades are out of the way. And so I want to say to the public, we just had a presentation on how sometimes we implement public policy as a government and just don't get it right. The intentions may be there, but sometimes it's not right. And so I want to assure you that we are very open to making the adjustments. If there was a question that I had right now, it would be the last thing we talked about was an annual review or biennial review of the policy part, because we want to ensure, the technology that exists today, it may change 2 years from now, which may alter our policies, and so we want to be fluent and fluid enough and nimble enough to be able to adjust and make amendments to those policies. And so I had asked for a review or an annual review, and I don't know if we implemented it in the resolution. It is in the resolution. Okay, great. But even if it wasn't, I can assure the public that it'll give us the opportunity that if we got something wrong in the policy, it'll give us the opportunity to fix it later. If technology changes and our policy needs to be altered, give us a chance to come back and address that later. And so that was a real sticking point for me. And to get it implemented, to have the ability to make adjustments, and then finally the public feedback. This public hearing part is really important because yes, we're moving forward because we want to ensure that not a minute goes by that our deputy sheriffs aren't protected. Not a second goes by that the public doesn't have the ability to access records that present justice, facts, and truth. And so we want to get that going, but we also need to hear from the public. And I want to really encourage you to be a part of this upcoming public hearing, even though it's kind of after we adopt this resolution, because I want to assure you that we hear you and we are listening, and we know we're not getting it perfect, but we know it's also the right step in a time in our society where technology has to be a core part of your policy structure. So I think that's what we're doing right here. And then finally, I'm sorry, I guess I've got my eye here. Finally, okay, it's really hurting. The final thing I want to say is just this. I think it was Ms. Hummer that mentioned it, and that was that transparency is maybe that was you, Administrator Wilson, but that transparency is at the underlying foundation of this entire conversation. That the ability to evaluate how we are implementing law enforcement, public policy, to complaints that might come from the public, to policies that have just become outdated. We've seen nationally where use of force policies from 20 years ago are still in place today, but it might not fit the environment. If 20 years ago your law enforcement agency was 50 officers and today it's 200, I mean, there's a lot of adjustments that need to take place even in public policy. And so this transparency to me is at the core of that, and I think that exists. And so I'll be voting in support of this resolution. I think it, we are not the largest law enforcement agency in Central Ohio. We don't cover a lot of the core areas of this Central Ohio, but it's an important part. I don't know how much our policies align with the City of Columbus and their policies, but it's important that we're all on the same page about transparency and the ability to access that. So knowing that my question has been answered, knowing that the review process before the Board of Commissioners is annual, or biennial, the annual, that was all I really, was my only sticking point. And so I'll be voting in support of the resolution today.
Well, I agree. I'll definitely be voting in support of the resolution, but I don't want to throw around a whole lot of accolades. Anybody who knows me and anybody that's talked to me about this over the last year and a half knows that I've been about as frustrated by this as anybody has been. This is a great thing. This is a fantastic thing. And I do want to say that Sheriff Baldwin has been asking for body-worn cameras for a lot longer than anybody around here knows he has. He was asking for body-worn cameras very, very early on, way before anything went on back in early 2020. He was asking us for body-worn cameras, and we were talking about body-worn cameras, and we were heading in that direction before any of this stuff happened. And I do want to recognize the fact that he did. But this was, by all accounts, everybody in this room knows, everybody that was a part of this knows, This was a long, arduous, very frustrating task by everybody. And as much as, the sheriff was a huge supporter of getting this done, we had to bring a group around everybody to make this work. You've heard from Administrator Wilson. We had the Sheriff's Department, Prosecutor's Office, the Data Center, County Administration. We had everybody at the table, and we had to do that. God love, Sheriff's Office, but if we left it up to them, they'd have bought everything, and it would have all been done right away. But we had to have the team together. We had to have everybody at the table, and it made for an arduous task. And so this was very difficult. This was hard to get done, and we've got it done now. And so I'm glad we're finally here. But it was a lot of pulling teeth by everybody, and we had a lot of tough days, a lot of tough conversations, and a lot of folks that had to be heard, a lot of folks who's where it took a lot to get to where we are today, and so this is an important day, and Commissioner Boyce is right on a lot of things in terms of going forward and moving forward and making sure that that we're paying attention to upgrades in technology and making sure that we are that we continue to make the right decisions going forward. Just buying this equipment is just step one, and making sure that we're doing the right thing with this equipment, making sure that we're doing the right thing with the policy, making sure that the deputies are protected, making sure that the public's protected. This is a great day, but there's a lot of work to be done going forward. So exciting.
I would just add, I don't want to belabor the point. I want to thank everyone who was involved in the ongoing conversations, starting in 2020, 2021. And even when I joined the board and was involved in the conversations, it's already been stated that, we don't always agree and didn't always agree, but I really appreciate that everyone was always willing to come back to the table to continue to move the conversation forward in spite of those disagreements and try to find a path forward. Really wanted, commend my colleagues as well for being willing to put the money aside for this. It says what the board's commitment is to accountability, transparency, community trust, and then making sure, even though the sheriff's office is a separate elected office, but that the sheriffs have exactly, the deputies have exactly what they need. We know that the national discourse is that there isn't a lot of trust between members of the community and law enforcement. And so this is one step forward to help build that. And to Attorney Hummer's point about, attaching the policy to this resolution is another way to try to build trust so everybody can look at it and critique it and, ask questions and ask for, clarity on different aspects of this. It really is, to protect the community as well as law enforcement. One of the questions that I had and concerns, which I'm glad there is now the whereas clause with the annual review, is the body worn cameras in the jails. And I'm not, it's no secret, that is something that had been a question in this conversation long before I joined the board, and I know it will be now. And I appreciate that the policy allows for us to look at that and make changes as necessary as implementation occurs. And so I want to, just highlight that fact or underscore that. And then for the public forums, because this is just as much as it's, great for the sheriff's office to have this, it is great to have the voice of the people, because at the end of the day, we work for you, right? And we want your input and your concerns to be addressed. I do have one question about the policy and some funding, and I'm sorry, I'm just now seeing this. If someone could talk to me about or just answer the $394,000 that is on page 3 of the resolution, which is a supplemental appropriation. Is that part of the $2.5 million, or is that outside of that? In what that is for? Why was that separated out?
I was going to, Mr. Madison, I'll let you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. The supplemental appropriation is to cover the part of the first year of the contract. There's approximately $158,000 in implementation costs, and half of the $475,000 a year. It's half of that for the first part of the go live, which will happen in October for patrol, and the second half of the first year payment will happen in January of 23 when we finish all the implementation of the office. And then moving forward after that, we will pay the next 4 years on an annual basis to reach the $2.5 million noted in the resolution.
Okay, thank you. And then I just want to acknowledge that the sheriff's office also was awarded, and I saw that it was in the dispatch today. I think it might have been misquoted, but the sheriff's office was awarded money from the state for body-worn cameras after the governor's office, as well as the legislature set aside funding in the operating budget for this. And so I just want to acknowledge that the sheriff's office was a recipient of those grants. And so I'll just, I don't know if there's any additional comments, but again, I just want to thank everyone who had anything to do with getting this here and before us today. I think the sheriff's office should be the biggest promoter of this, the resolution and the policy. And I know that there will be ongoing conversations when it comes to this. And so looking forward to public input and ongoing work as this is concerned. So thank you.
Oh, sorry. There are no further comments or questions. I'll move approval of Resolution 9722.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 9722 has been adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have the Office on Aging.
Resolution number 9822. Resolution authorizing a grant contract between the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging and Franklin County Office on Aging for services under the National Family Caregiver Support Program in the amount of $283,455,000.
Assistant Director of Administration, and joining me this morning is Director Orville Johns and Caroline Rankin, Assistant Director of Supportive Services. Office on Aging has been awarded grant funding to provide caregiver information and services in Franklin County. The total amount of the award is $283,455 for the period of January 1st through December 31st of 2022. The funds are from the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging, was authorized by ODA to administer the National Family Caregiver Support Program, authorized by Title IIIe of the Older Americans Act reauthorization of 2006 to support the informal caregiving efforts of families. The Family Caregiver Support Program provides support and services to families to enhance and restore independence to the resident and the caregiver. Some examples of services provided through this program are adult day services, caregiver counseling, kinship support services, and respite. Pending any questions, I respectfully request your approval of this resolution.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 9822.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 9822 has been adopted.
Next, we have economic development and planning.
Resolution number 9922. Review of petition to annex 87.5 acres more or less from Madison Township to the city of Canal, Winchester, case number ANX-01-22.
Good morning, Commissioners. Matt Brown, Planning Administrator for the Economic Development Planning Department. This resolution is to consider an expedited Type 2 annexation petition of 87.5 acres more or less from Madison Township to the city of Canal, Winchester. The area to be annexed includes parcel number 181-001377, located at the northwest corner of the Winchester Pike, Bixby Road, and Bryce Road intersection. The annexation also includes the Bixby Road public right-of-way portions of 3 parcels. The petition was filed by David J. Robinson on behalf of the property owners, area SB11, Gail and Teresa Schatt, NP Canal Winchester Building 2 LLC, and NP Canal Winchester LLC. 20% of the site's perimeter is contiguous to the city of Canal Winchester, and the city passed resolution number 22-004 on January 18th, 2022, indicating the services that will be provided once the annexation is approved. The petition meets all statutory requirements outlined in Section 709.021 of the Ohio Revised Code. Pending any questions, staff requests your approval of this resolution.
There are no comments or questions. Well, we have a guest.
Does Mr. Robinson of the Montrose Group want to speak to this resolution, or only if there's questions?
Thank you, Commissioner. He had to leave the meeting due to some time conflicts, so he's not on today.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Well, then if there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 9922.
Second.
Moved and seconded and voted. Commissioner O'Grady?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce?
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley?
Yes.
Resolution number 9922 has been adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have Job and Family Services.
Resolution number 122. Resolution approving a contract agreement with the United Way of Central Ohio Incorporated for tax preparation services in the amount of $75,000.
Bart Logan from Job and Family Services. This resolution, as she mentioned, would approve a contract with UWCO for free tax prep assistance and financial education through Tax Time. And Tax Time is a coalition of nonprofit, business, and government organizations that seek to help low and moderate income households claim available tax deductions or credits, avoid preparation fees, and advance on the path towards financial independence. It combines both United Way's Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, or VITA, and AARP's Tax Counseling for the Elderly program under one umbrella. Since its inception in 2006, Tax Time's IRS certified volunteers have helped more than 152 Central Ohio households, 152,000, households claim over $165 million in returns. They've also helped these families save an estimated $32 million in tax preparation fees. So that's avoiding paid preparers who might engage in predatory practices such as refund anticipation checks. This year, residents will be able to access the free tax preparation services both virtually and safely in person at dozens of sites across the county, including public libraries, community centers, and social service agencies. Residents can learn more by calling the Lutheran Social Services and Hands-On Central Ohio 211 hotline, and they can also learn more by visiting getyourrefund.org/UWCO. That's getyourrefund.org/UWCO. This resolution also supports the action step in your Rise Together blueprint of expanding neighborhood-based and workplace-based financial services to support individual decision-making and overall wealth building. That's goal number 4 in your poverty group blueprint. And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that today is the White House's Child Care Tax Credit and Earned Income Tax Credit Day of Action. As you know, Commissioners, the child tax credit was increased and expanded in 2021 through the ARP, the American Rescue Plan, and most families are eligible to receive the credit for their children. For families with children, that tax credit ranges between $3,000 to $3,600 per child based on their age. Also, last year, in 2021, it was the first time the earned income tax credit was expanded for a lot of workers, and you see up to $1,500 for workers, even those without children in their home. That's nearly triple the credit from 2020 because, again, of those changes in the ARP. The filing a tax return is still the best way to receive the full child tax credit and earned income tax credit. So we know many families, were receiving those monthly payments last year from July through December. That only accounted for half of their CTC, their child tax credit. They will receive all of their CTC that they are owed by filing taxes this year, and our tax time volunteers can help with that. There's also information available at childtaxcredit.gov. The Center for American Progress found that the expanded CTC lifted over 4.1 million children out of poverty and helped reduce the number of children living in poverty by more than 40% last year. It's the biggest reduction in child poverty in a single year in decades. And so making these expansions permanent has been a policy priority at the federal level for Franklin County through our work with the National Association of Counties. And last summer, Deputy Administrator Joy Bivens co-sponsored a resolution with the National Association of County Human Services Administrators through NACO that urged Congress to make those expansions permanent, making it an official plank in NACO's advocacy platform. But with that being said, pending any questions, we will ask for your approval of this resolution.
I do have some comments. Thank you so much, Bart, for mentioning the child tax credit and EITC as anti-poverty policy, and how it really impacts children greatly. And so, most of the time when you have the child tax credit and the federal EITC, which is refundable, these things go to housing, child care, utility costs, transportation. These things go right back into the economy. The money goes right back into the economy. And I do want to highlight that Ohio does not have a refundable EITC, which hopefully that will change. The legislature could make that change this week if they wanted to and move a bill that's already been introduced in the House. But it does reduce the tax liability. And so I know I got some feedback from the community where this was concerned, but I think as we continue, who is against the child tax credit and EITC, and I don't know why folks would be opposed to it when we know that, we are making sure that people have a roof over their head and water running and food to put into their children's mouths. So thank you for highlighting that. And then I want to say thank you for this resolution when it comes to helping individuals prepare their taxes. I used to be a volunteer at the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program at Capital University Law School, and many families come through there who can't afford, but for these services would not be able to prepare their taxes or would have issues later on for delinquent taxes or failing to file, but they just did not have the money or the resources to be able to do that. So appreciate this resolution before us today. And I don't know if anybody else has any comments, but I definitely support it. Thank you.
Well, if there are no other comments or questions, I will move approval of Resolution 122.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting. Commissioner O'Grady?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce?
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley?
Yes.
Resolution number 122 has been adopted. Resolution number 10122. Resolution approving a subaward agreement with the Columbus Urban League for a workforce suiting program in the amount of $35,000.
My Brother's Closet is the Urban League's workplace suiting program. It's administered to target TANF-eligible men who are unemployed, underemployed, or lack the resources to attain professional attire. Men referred to My Brother's Closet are able to access professional development training, soft skills workshops, one-on-one career counseling, and interview training, and more, in addition to that workplace suiting. Since 2018, My Brother's Closet has assisted over 350 men in attaining workplace suiting attire, as well as soft skills and employability training. And under the proposed agreement, My Brother's Closet will target approximately 140 men this year. Pending any questions, we ask for your approval.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 10122.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 10122 has been adopted. Resolution number 10222, resolution approving a subaward agreement with Image Character Etiquette Incorporated for a youth mentoring program in the amount of $90,879.30.
Image, character, and etiquette heritage mentoring pilot is going to be offered for girls ages 12 to 18 that are referred from the Family Stabilization Unit. It focuses on holistic needs, so ranging from leadership development and resiliency training through social emotional learning and creative arts. The girls referred from the pilot, or to the pilot, I should say, will receive a blend of small group as well as one-on-one mentoring. It's offered both virtually and in person. The pilot will serve up to 50 girls referred by FSU this year through September 30th. Pending any questions, we ask for approval of this resolution.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 10222.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 10222 has been adopted.
Next, we have Justice Policy and Programs.
Resolution number 10322. Resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office for the Franklin County Office of Justice Policy and Programs guidance through the blueprint, for safety systems, safety audit, and subsequent writing of a unified domestic violence response policy and procedure manual.
Do we have anybody from Justice Policy and Programs? Okay, now we can come there.
Oh, there he is.
I'm Kevin Greenwood, Deputy Director for the Office of Justice Policy and Programs. The resolution before you is the final one in a series of 6 resolutions, 6 memoranda of understanding between the Office of Justice Policy and Programs and various partners throughout the community for the implementation of the Blueprint for Safety program. The Blueprint for Safety, as you are aware, was developed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it strives to improve communications between various victim services organizations, various the court system, and law enforcement agencies. We are currently in the first phase of the program, and this resolution will provide for the Sheriff's Office participation in the determination of processes and structures to make victim services a more human-centric approach in Franklin County. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 10322.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 10322 has been adopted.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Next, we have Public Facilities Management.
Resolution number 10422. Resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute a modification to the contract agreement with Johnson Controls Fire Protection LP to perform additional security electronics activities associated with the construction of the Franklin County Correction Center in the amount of the contract not to exceed $134,665 and and authorizing the county administrator to approve and execute additional minor modifications to the contract agreement in the amount of $14,053,196.
facilities management. In January of 2019, Johnson Controls Fire Protection LP was awarded a contract agreement to perform security electronics activities associated with the construction of the new Franklin County Corrections Center. This resolution authorizes a modification of the contract agreement with Johnson Controls to perform additional security electronics activities such as refinements to the fire alarm system, security key box cabinet, and master control station. Any unused funds will be returned to the county. As you are aware, the Correction Center construction project has an established small and emerging business enterprise aspirational goal of 12%. This project remains on track to exceed the aspirational goal with an SCDE commitment of 29.66%, approximately $88 million as of the end of 2021. Pending any questions, CFM respectfully requests your approval of this contract modification with Johnson Controls Fire Protection LP.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 10422.
Second.
Moved and seconded in voting, Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 10422 has been adopted. Resolution number 10522. Resolution authorizing a guaranteed maximum price GMP Amendment Number 4 to modify the original contract agreement with Elford Incorporated to provide construction manager at-risk services, including construction services associated with the construction of the Franklin County Domestic Relations and Juvenile Court in the amount of the contract not to exceed $1,640,621.
I'm sorry, Commissioners, can you still hear me? My video and audio is lagging a lot.
We can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Commissioner. In July of 2020, Elford Inc., a local firm, was awarded a contract agreement to provide construction manager at-risk services associated with the planning, design, and construction of the Franklin County Domestic Relations and Juvenile Court located at 373 South High Street. This resolution authorizes a guaranteed maximum price GMP Amendment Number 4 to provide additional construction services. Specifically, GMP Amendment Number 4 provides for construction work in the Franklin County Office Tower, including a renovation of the Franklin County Public Defender on the 11th and 12th floors, the addition of a lactation room for staff and visitors on the 16th floor, and a renovation of the Franklin County Data Center on the 8th floor. GMP Number 4 will fund the cost of work, construction management staff, general conditions expenses, and contingency amounts for these projects. Consistent with their prior amendments, Elford will hold all subcontracts associated with this amendment. The prosecutor's office has reviewed and is supportive. Pending any questions, we respectfully request your approval of guaranteed maximum price amendment number 4.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 10522.
Second.
Moved and seconded in voting, Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 10522 has been adopted. Resolution number 10622. Resolution authorizing recycling of information technology equipment declared obsolete by the Franklin County Automatic Data Processing Board.
There are no comments or questions on the proposal. It's the most mindful, it's the easiest one there is to do.
Go ahead, Director Reardon.
Thank you. Sorry, I think I'm pretty frozen or lagged here, but as long as you can hear me, sorry, I couldn't hear when the clerk was done reading the resolution. Periodically, this agency is asked by the Data Processing Board to assist with the recycling of obsolete surplus IT equipment. We do so in a manner consistent with this board's commitment to promote sustainable principles in our policy decisions and programs. Pending any questions, we request your approval to dispose of this e-waste.
There are no comments or questions. I'll move approval of Resolution 10622.
Second.
Moved and seconded in voting, Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 10622 has been adopted.
Thank you so much. Next, we have purchasing.
Resolution number 10722. Resolution approving purchases for various Franklin County agencies in the amount of $8,823,661.10.
Commissioners, Megan Perry Valinier, Director of Purchasing, and joining me is Marlise Ryan, Economic Equity Administrator in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Commissioners, this resolution requests your approval of 133 purchase orders for which the county auditor has pre-certified available funding. I'll turn it over to Marlise for the Small and Emerging Business Enterprise data. Good morning, Marlise.
Good morning, Megan, and thank you. Good morning, Commissioner. We have for your approval 11 purchase orders presented to award to 3 small businesses, 3 minority businesses, 4 women, and 1 locally economically disadvantaged business enterprises, totaling $209,719.18. The following agencies are increasing supply diversity of business services within Franklin County: Public Facilities Management, Sanitary Engineering, Job and Family Services, Auditor's Office, Domestic Relations and Juvenile Court, Sheriff's Office, the Engineer's Office, and Emergency Management.
Thank you, Marlene. Pending any questions, Commissioners, we respectfully request your approval of this resolution.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 10722.
Moved and seconded in voting, Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce, Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 10722 has been adopted.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Next, we have Board of Commissioners.
Resolution number 10822. Resolution designating February 15th, 2022 as Plastic Pollution Awareness Day.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Long, Deputy Administrator. This resolution recognizes Plastic Pollution Awareness Day in Ohio to spotlight the critical risk that single-use plastics pose for our water and waste management that impacts not only Franklin County but all Americans. On average, Americans use 100 billion plastic bags a year, which require 12 million barrels of oil to manufacture, equaling 365 plastic bags per person per year. Americans use 500 million plastic straws every day, and these single-use plastics can remain in our waterways for years, posing an ongoing threat to wildlife. Mitigating and preventing further climate change, as well as preserving our natural surroundings, has never been as important to our well-being as it is today. Plastic Pollution Awareness Day in Franklin County has been established as a means to educate the public on the risks plastic poses and to encourage residents to switch to reusable bags, water bottles, and straws. This resolution would declare and designate February 15th, 2022 as Plastic Pollution Awareness Day. It would encourage the use of reusable alternatives to bags, water bottles, plastic bags, water bottles, straws, and other single-use plastics. The Board of Commissioners would also call upon other local municipalities and businesses to evaluate their plastic use and disposal procedures and consider taking further actions, such as conducting environmental audits, diverting plastics from landfills, and creating innovative second-use strategies that are better and friendlier to our communities. And finally, reaffirming the board's own commitment, and frankly, as the discussion last week entailed, to reevaluate and do a deeper dive into what we are doing now. There are some elements that we have done well, but it is time to relook at everything that we do from top to bottom in each of our agencies to ensure that we are living the words that we are putting on the paper right here for what we are doing within each of our agencies. That includes conversations that have already begun with the new Cafe Overlook, things that we are doing with all of our construction procedures, and an ongoing effort to reevaluate how we move forward as a board as we look at reaffirming the board's commitment to these issues. In addition to the resolution itself, we have with us a guest from SWACO, Hannah Greer-Brown, to provide some additional comments. Hannah?
Thank you, Administrator Long. Good morning, President Crawley, Commissioner Boyce, and Commissioner O'Grady. I'm so pleased to be here today on behalf of
Swaco to offer our support for your resolution declaring February 15th as Plastic Pollution Awareness Day. Thank you for the invitation to join you. As the owner and operator of the county's landfill, Swaco is working hard to reduce the community's reliance on the landfill because there are many environmental and economic benefits to reducing waste and recycling rates. Swaco provides educational programs and access to recycling services and infrastructure, which make it both easy and convenient for residents and businesses to reduce their waste, including the consumption of single-use plastics. We've been so pleased to partner with the Board of Commissioners on our Recycle Right initiative, which has connected thousands of Franklin County families with information on the plastics and other materials that are currently accepted for recycling. Because knowing what's accepted for recycling can help us avoid the use of single-use items like straws and plastic coffee cup lids. The good news is that today we're able to recycle more plastics than we were just 2 short years ago. Franklin County's recycling program now accepts all plastic bottles, jugs, tubs, and cups. And when we choose to avoid single-use plastics and recycle correctly, we're contributing to a healthier and cleaner environment and supporting a more circular economy, which equates to green jobs, technology, and investments in our local communities. And while Franklin County's recycling rate exceeds the national average, we still landfill over 1 million tons of material every single year. And 75% of those landfill materials could have been recycled. So the opportunity is before us to reduce our waste and commit to recycling all that we can every day. So on behalf of Director Ty Marsh and the entire team at Swaco, thank you for your support of Franklin County's efforts to reduce waste and for your declaration of this important day of awareness. We look forward to partnering with you on this initiative.
Thank you, Hannah. Pending any questions, would recommend approval of this resolution.
Thank you so much, Deputy County Administrator Long. Thank you so much, Hannah, for being here today in support of this resolution. I just want to say I was at PCMA, Convening Leaders conference a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas, and one of the things that was highlighted was a young lady who is an environmental activist and Rhodes Scholar. I mean, very... she was amazing. And she was talking about how, environmental issues, climate change, clean air, clean water, we always talk about it, and like putting strategies to, make an impact over the next few years. But these things are like here right now, and that we can always make changes and be innovative in how we address our environmental issues and really addressing clean air and clean water. And we did have a robust discussion last Thursday to talk about how, there are more things that we can do here at the county. And as Deputy Administrator Long said, like reaffirming our commitment to having a county and county government where we walk and talk the talk as we're asking others to do the same. And so I know that Swaco just had a graphic go out last week about the partnership with a material facility that will be taking on some of these plastic waste. There is a commitment to divert 75% away from the landfill. And so that's great, and we hope that others will do the same, and we will look at having a comprehensive plan going forward in how Franklin County as a government are going to really address our environmental issues. And as we get to that plan, or as we develop that, we'll be looking for community input as well as the employees from Franklin County. If they have thoughts and ideas on what we can do and do it better, we welcome that. So thank you so much for this resolution today.
It's good to see you back at general session, Hannah. It's been a long time. It's also good to see Matt's better half. We had both of you on today. So you can tell him I said that, by the way. All right. If there's no further comments or questions, I will move approval of Resolution 10822.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce, Commissioner Crawley.
Yes.
Resolution number 10822 has been adopted. Resolution number 10922. Resolution making appointments and reappointments to the Columbus and Franklin County Affordable Housing Trust Corporation Board of Trustees.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you're aware, the Franklin County Board of Commissioners, along with the Mayor of Columbus, the City of Columbus, appoints all of the members to the Columbus-Franklin County Affordable Housing Trust Corporation Board. This resolution would jointly appoint Sandy Doyle Ahern and Sean Grant, and would jointly reappoint Michael Childs, Bill Lafayette, and Mary Love to the board. Pending any questions, would recommend your approval.
If there are no comments or questions, I'll move approval of Resolution 10922.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and voting Commissioner O'Grady,
Yes.
Commissioner Crawley,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyce.
Yes. Almost saying, abstain, sorry.
Resolution number 10922 has been adopted with Commissioner Boyce's noted abstention.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Are there any generalizations?
There are 4, Commissioner. Case number ANX 0522, an expedited Type 2 annexation petition, ANX-05-22, was filed with the Franklin County Economic Development and Planning Department on January 31st, 2022. The petition is requesting to annex 98.58 acres from Jackson Townships to the City of Grove City. The petition will be considered by the Board of Commissioners on March 8th, 2022. The site is 5316 Harrisburg Pike, PID number 160-000236. Case number ANX 06-22, an expedited Type 2 annexation petition, ANX-06-22, was filed with the Franklin County Economic Development and Planning Department on January 31st, 2022. The petition is requesting to annex 5.55 acres from Jackson Townships to the City of Grove City. The petition will be considered by the Board of Commissioners on March 8th, 2022. Site 5873 Hahn Road, PID number 160-002611. Case number ANX-07-22, an expedited Type 2 annexation petition, ANX-07-22, was filed with the Franklin County Economic Development and Planning Department on January 31st, 2022. The petition is requesting to annex 63.02 acres from Jackson Townships to the City of Grove City. The petition will be considered by the Board of Commissioners on March 8th, 2022. Site is 5460 Hahn Road, PID number 160-000125, and Hahn Road, PID number 160-003068. And finally, case number ANX-08-22, an expedited Type 2 annexation petition, ANX-08-22, was filed with the Franklin County Economic Development and Planning Department on January 31st, 2022. The petition is requesting to annex 102.86 acres from Jackson Townships to the City of Grove City. The petition will be considered by the Board of Commissioners on March 8th, 2022. The sites are Hoover Road, PID number 160-000119, and Hoover Road, PID number 160-000163.
Thank you. Are there any members of the media that has any questions? All right, hearing none. If there is no additional business to come before the board, we are concluded. Thank you.